Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad you can join me here today. In the last 2 weeks I have been traveling. I traveled to two countries. I went to Dubai and Bahrain, both Arab countries, but I could see the stark difference between the way the people in Dubai live versus the way the people in Bahrain live, in terms of the culture, the influence of the West, for example, in terms of the food itself. Dubai is very multicultural, very westernized, if you want to say, if you want to call it that. There's a lot of skyscrapers around. It's very modern. For a place which was a desert maybe like 40, 50 years ago, it's done really well. Bahrain, on the other hand, was an interesting mix. It was more traditional. It was more cultural. People dressed more in the traditional garb. You could tell that Bahrain was an Arab country, whereas in Dubai, if you went to Dubai and you didn't know that Dubai was part of the Seven Emirates, which was obviously an Arab part of the Middle East and an Arab country, you wouldn't really be able to tell that Dubai is an Arabic country. I mean, people speak more Urdu and Hindi there than they do Arabic. I don't think I ever heard Arabic being spoken in Dubai. Hardly. I can't remember it being spoken at all. Maybe one or two times. But in Bahrain, it was everywhere. So you can tell the difference. Anyway, so when you travel, you get to experience different cultures, you meet different people, you get to understand the way people think, the way people are, and then things happen as well in your journeys, and you learn from these things. And that's why traveling is a very good experience, because you get to experience the world firsthand, essentially. Now, when I was traveling, things happen. Obviously, things happen when you travel, and things that are beyond your control. And it got me thinking that when this whole concept of whether your life is in your control. Do I really control my life? Do I really set out my life, the path in my life, or is my life essentially predestined in a way where the path I was going to take in life, the journey I was going to take in life, was always set for me. That was a journey I was always going to take. And regardless of what I did, that direction was already set for me. So even though I think that I am doing things to go towards a certain path, that path was already predestined, and I'm just walking on it. I'm like a robot, just working through. Or if you watch the Matrix, for example, I'm basically within the Matrix. It's already been coded that I'm going to be walking this path. I haven't had any of the pills yet, the blue pill or the red pill. I don't know about the pills. I'm just walking a path, and it's already been predetermined, predestined for me, and that is essentially my path. Now, the problem I have with that analogy and that worldview is that I don't like the concept or the fact that I don't have control in my life, because then what happens is I kind of give in to the world, essentially, and say that because I can't control anything, I just let life be as it is. And I'm going to tread on very I'll be very careful in terms of the way I phrase this, but I'm trying to say that I don't like the concept or the fact that if someone tells me that my life has been predestined and I have no control essentially over it, then I can't influence it in any way possible. And that's not a life that I want to live, because essentially, if I am accountable for my life, I should be able to influence and make decisions for my life that will affect me currently, in the future, and way into the future, because I make those decisions, I make those life choices, and I walk the journey that I set myself out to walk on. So I don't like this whole concept of predestination in that way, where actually everything is predestined, so just accept it as it is, and there's nothing you can do about it, so just move on, and that's it. I don't like that. On the other hand, if you look at free will, pure free will, everything is in my control. Actually, it isn't. I was born in a certain family, I was born in a certain household, I was born in a certain country, in a certain century, I moved to a different country, which was on my choice. It was a good thing for me, but I didn't choose to move to this country. I didn't choose my personality. Even something as fundamental as that, the kind of person I am, whether I'm an introvert and extrovert, is all determined by my genetic makeup, by my genes. There's a lot of research on this, but I'm no expert at this. But personalities are both nature and nurture. And that's why when you look at kids, I have a child as well. You can tell personalities based on the way, even as babies, you can tell how they will grow up, whether they'll be very extroverted or very introverted based on their personalities at birth, or as they grow up, the first few years of their life. And that's all genetic makeup. That's all, ingrained within the genetic makeup. So if I'm an introvert, then I could say that it is not fair that because this world is an extroverted world, it is a world in which you only get to certain places in life if you are able to put yourself out. Essentially, an extrovert finds it easier. Obviously, it's not always the case, but it finds it easier to live in this world than an introverted person would, because an extrovert knows how to express himself. He knows what he wants, and he knows how to get what he wants. Whereas introvert might know what he wants, but sometimes he might struggle to basically put himself out there, or articulate it in a way where people would appreciate his point of view, because he's not necessarily shy, but he's just more reserved. But regardless, so that's, even personality, something like that is all, a lot of it is predetermined. Like, I did not ask to be the kind of person I am, or the personality I have, because that was affected by my genetic makeup, my childhood, the people I hung around. Essentially, even the people I hung around was predetermined in a way, because I only grew up in a household and around people where my parents were based, right, as a child. So I basically hung out with people who are in that circle, um, and I couldn't hang out with other people outside my circle. Maybe I could, but as a child, you don't really know what you're looking for, anyways. But the point I'm trying to make is, a lot of life has been predetermined for me, without any choice of mine. So I also don't like the whole concept of telling me, or someone telling me that my life, I've got a free life, because I can do whatever the hell I want, because I can't, right? Essentially, I am restricted by certain factors. Give you a rough example. If you look at the Middle East at the moment, people who live in the Middle East and who can't leave the war-torn zones, they could turn around and say that if my life was free, then I could have left out of my free will. But because they've been restricted to leave, they don't have that freedom. So I don't think that free will exists in that way. In terms of, we are totally free, autonomous creatures who can make any decisions that we want, regardless of any factors. As long as we want it, we can go ahead and get it. So what is life then? How do we understand life between predetermination and free will? Life, do I really have control over my life, or is it all set? Now, I thought a lot about this, especially when I was traveling as well. Like I said, things happen when you travel and they're out of your control. And you realize that sometimes you really don't have control. However much you try, you just don't have control. And you can't help it. You can't do anything to change that situation. It is the way it is. So I think, over the years, I've been thinking a lot about this. I even studied a degree in philosophy at the University of Birmingham many, many years ago. And we obviously discussed the whole concept of free will and predestination from a philosopher's perspective as well. But based on my thoughts and my readings and my understanding, I think the way life works is like a balance and in between free will and predetermination. So certain aspects of my life have been predetermined. Where I was born, the family I was born to, and everything around that part, my personality, for example, was all predetermined. But I have the choice to go from here to wherever I want, right? And sometimes I'm not really sure. So this is just my thought, but basically I can go this way because my life has been predetermined for me to be able to walk this journey until there. But I can't go this way because in my predetermined life, this wasn't decreed for me, but this was. So I can work hard. I can work hard and move from here all the way to the end of my journey, wherever I need to reach. But I can't work hard and go there because my life wasn't written in a way for me to be able to progress this way. But and I don't mean by going up and down or sideways. Just because I don't have a 5-dimensional object to show you. But essentially, I'm saying I can only walk the journey in life that has been charted out for me, right? and I will work. I have to. My free will is to be able to work hard and to walk that journey in life and achieve the goals that I have to achieve in this aspect, but not this aspect. So I have to give up, or I have to understand and submit to the fact that sometimes I can't work this way. Again, I don't mean going upwards. I mean just another direction in life, because that wasn't predetermined or predestined for me. We can go into religion and philosophy in terms of all of this, but essentially, let me give a rough example. So, for example, people who have money, again, you can argue let me make the point, and then I can tell you what the counter argument is. So people who are well off, right, they can do things, more things or different things compared to people who don't have as much money. I know you'll say that, okay, then it's your free will to go and make that much money, but sometimes, no matter how hard people try, they still cannot make that much money because it just wasn't for them. Right now, in that situation, and that I don't think that's far-fetched, because we can see that in the in the people around us. I met a guy in Bahrain, actually, when I was there at one of the hotels, and I was just chatting to him, and he told me he's come from Bangladesh, and he's been here for well, he's been in the country for 3 years, and he was working at the hotel for 6 months, and he was telling me the salary they pay is not a lot. He was a porter, and he was. I tried to help him to lift the luggages, and he told me no, it's his job to do it, so he will do it. But essentially, he was saying that they don't pay him well enough, and you could argue to say that he can work harder, he can do different things, but not everyone can do everything, right? Not everyone has the capacity or skill set. It doesn't make someone better or worse off. It's just the way I am is different to the way someone else is, right? I can do what I can do, and he does what he can do, and what he does. And we can't compare ourselves to each other. But what I'm saying is, sometimes things are not written for us, written, predestined, decreed for us, because we it's just not meant for us, right? And so in that situation, he can only do things, right, that allow him in his life, based on his circumstances, to work towards that. Because he doesn't have that much money, or he can't have the capacity and capability to achieve that much money, he can't do the things that rich people would have access to. And essentially, that's the point I'm trying to make is, I have accepted the fact, and I've submitted to the fact that certain parts of my life are predestined, including the journey I walk in life. So essentially, life, as I say, life is an oyster, right? You discover it. The world is your oyster. You discover whatever you need to discover, but you will only discover the journey that you would thrive in, and that is meant for you. This is obviously not. This is all based on my personal reflections and my understanding and thoughts, and this is how I see my life at the moment. And I will not find the life. So even though I look up to people who are living a certain life, I have accepted that I might not be able to live that life, and I have to live this life. And I think that's important, because once you accept that, you stop fighting things you cannot control. So let's say I can't think of any examples at the moment, but let's say you want it to be a certain way, but your life circumstances don't allow you to be that certain way. Until the life circumstances change, which might never do, you have to accept the fact that that might not be for you. And you know what? Maybe it's a good thing, because if you had that, it would have, I don't know, corrupted you, would have made your life worse off. You would have made it like more miserable. You'd be more miserable than you would if you are in your current path, and that's why maybe it's just set that way. So those are the thoughts I've been having while I was traveling, in terms of predestination and free will. And essentially, because I'm a strong believer in God, I strongly and wholeheartedly believe that the path and journey in life has been predestined for us by God. God has essentially laid us the path in life. He has shown us, given us the tools, and it is up to us to walk that path. And whenever we waver from the path, God brings in certain things to help us. And one of the most powerful things he brings in, and for me personally, this has worked a lot, is difficulties. Difficulties, I'll make another video about difficulties and challenges in life, but difficulties are probably one of the most powerful factors to bring a person back onto his path. Because when you encounter difficulties, you realize that actually life is so fleeting, and if you're walking on this journey, then you need to try and come back to that journey. If you're like traversing away, or going away from the path, then difficulties will help you to narrow onto that path, so that you can come back and continue walking that path that you were meant to do. And I think that's part of God's grace and favor upon us, upon me, to help me. So difficulties are meant to be blessings rather than curses, if you want to call it. And essentially that's the thought I've been having. And one more point before I leave. So as part of this, because when we think about predestination, free will, we look up to certain people, and we want to live the life they live. And I have been a lot like I have fallen to this way of thinking a lot before in the past as well, where I look up to someone and I want to be like them. But you know one thing, basically, if you look at a person, just take one person, that person comes as a package deal. So you look up to that person, but you only look up to one aspect or two aspects of his life. You don't know what else he has. He might have a rubbish relationship, a rubbish family life, or I don't know, he might have like lots of loans and debt hanging over his head, something that you wouldn't want to have. So you think to yourself, if I want to emulate that person, if I want to be like him, it'll be the package deal that comes with it. And I know I like these one or two parts, but the rest of it, I want to keep very far away from it, because I don't want to be that kind of a person. So I have to be very careful when I look up to people and try and emulate people, because I want to know that I am just emulating a certain aspect of their lives and not their whole life. It might be that I don't want to be, if they came as a package deal, even though I like one or two parts of them, I wouldn't want to be that way. I wouldn't want to live their life. They say, for example, with Warren Buffett, he made a lot of money. He played the long game for 30-40 years to form Berkshire Hathaway, a multi-billion-dollar business. But he lost out. He himself says this. He lost out on his time with his kids. I don't want to do that. I don't want to earn a lot of money, but I don't want to lose out time with my kids. I mean, that's so precious to me. Why would I sacrifice something so fleeting like money and lose out? If it comes at that cost, then I don't want that much money. That's what I'm trying to say. So even though I look up to Warren Buffett and say, oh wow, he's done really well, I want to emulate him, but I know that his family life wasn't as I want it to be, which means if I'm going to emulate the whole of Warren Buffett, I probably wouldn't want to go towards that path. And that's something I've been thinking about, and I read about it in a book as well recently. So I had this thought independently, but it's called the Almanac of Naval Ravikant. If you've read it, then you'll probably see that he actually mentions that in his book as well, that when you look up to a person, that person comes as a package. So if you want to emulate the person as a whole package, even Steve Jobs, for example, he was meant to be nasty to his employees. I don't want to be like that, right? Even though I admire his brain and his intellect, but it comes at a cost, right? And so you have to look at your own life and just take parts and parcels of other people's life that you think is useful and you want to emulate, and not go for the whole package. So I hope these thoughts and these ramblings have been beneficial. This is something I've been thinking about recently, and just trying to basically put a jigsaw around my life to see whether my life is predestined, have free will, how does it work, because none of these two concepts sat very well with me, because I didn't like the idea of having a predestined life, and I didn't like the idea of having a free life, because I knew that was not the case. I did not have a free life. But maybe there's something in between, and that's something I want to explore further and understand more. So yeah, I hope that was beneficial and useful, and I hope you enjoy that. If you did, please leave some comments in the comment section. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well on the topic of free will, predestination, what you think about it. And until next time, see you soon.